The war, the Iran, Israel, and United States war. Here's the deal. At this point in time, we've had 3 weeks to listen to a lot of different feedback wherever you're getting your news from, however getting your information, and it's coming to us in a lot of different ways. What we're going to do here today is give our community in Southeast Seattle an opportunity to share their feelings and their thoughts. We live in a very diverse community. We're over 100 different languages. I think 70 different languages, 100 different dialects are spoken. And a lot of people are what they call 6 degrees of separation from being connected to this particular war. Our community also has a very large Jewish population, very small Iranian population. But the impact of this war on the United States of America is something that people are trying to figure out. So this conversation could go any number of different places. I will say we were going to be joined by Mayor Greg Wheeler. He couldn't make it. Interesting thing about that, if you're thinking, why the mayor of Bremerton? Why would the mayor of Bremerton be on this show? Because that naval base in Bremerton is going to be the largest buildup of enlisted folks who will eventually have to go to wherever this zone is. Excuse me for a second. But we are very excited to have here writer, columnist, a whole bunch of things from the Seattle Times. If you have not read his work, go back and read some incredible things. Join us from the Seattle Times, Mr. Carlton Renfrey. Carlton, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. And, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but this is something obviously that you've been paying attention to.
Correct. The newspaper has been focusing on it. It's a national issue, but it's also an international issue. But I'm glad a platform like this is letting us share our thoughts on how it impacts us locally as well.
So things are happening every day. Every day
Right.
something is happening, which I was thinking, okay, by the time that we get to this show, how do we want to kick this off? Because things have happened today,
Right.
that impact the war on Iran, Israel, and the United States. But I think the first thing that I want to do is I just want to get your opinion.
Okay.
Whatever that is right now, if you wouldn't mind sharing your opinion. And you're talking to folks who may have a little information about this war. You may be talking to folks who have a one-sided, and maybe that's all they need to have, opinion of this war. And you are talking about people who have probably been impacted.
Okay.
All of us, I'm sure, have been impacted in some form or
Right.
another, even if it's just gas, which
Right.
is like $1 more than it was a
Right.
month ago.
Right.
But anyway, I want to hear from you.
Okay. I'll start
Your thoughts.
with the cost,
Okay.
cost of the war,
Okay.
the human cost.
Okay.
Because it does affect us here in Washington State. So far, 13 service people have been killed in the Middle East area, including one Washingtonian, Ariana Savino, who grew up in Covington, went to high school there, and was in the Air Force and became an aviator and was a commander in teaching others how to fly. And she lost her life along with 6 others when their refueling plane crashed in Western Iraq.
Okay.
So that is
From Covington.
Yes, she's from
That's
Covington,
close.
Washington. Yes.
Yeah.
And so that is the human cost that we all, can look at, and impacts us emotionally, and her family, of course, impacting them, a great loss to them. She was only 31 years old.
Oh, wow.
So we have that cost associated. Then there's the economic cost that you mentioned. The cost of gasoline has gone up 98 cents since February 28th when the war started.
Wow.
It's gone up an average of 98 cents. And I don't know if anybody say, well, I have an electric car, it's not going to impact me. It will impact you, because those diesel trucks and those 18-wheelers that bring food and goods to Safeway and to Walmart and to all the places where we go and shop, those trucks are trucking their goods into the Seattle area, into Washington. And the cost of fuel has gone up for them too. They're not going to eat that cost. They're going to pass it on to the consumer. So it impacts us in all ways, whether you have an electric vehicle or a gas-powered vehicle, it's going to affect you that way as a consumer as well. And as a taxpayer, today you said things are changing constantly, and today it was reported that the Pentagon will soon ask for $200 billion more than has already been spent. The war is costing them roughly about $1 billion a day, like $980 million a day. So right now we're up to like $19 billion we have spent so far on
Now, I'm just going to stop you right there for a second, because I can see how somebody would say, wait a minute, why don't we stop one day and take $1 billion and give me some health care? Does that make sense? Does that, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Does that match up? Is it that simple?
Well, I wish it were that simple, but since you brought up healthcare, at the same time, Medicaid has been cut by $1 trillion over the next 9 years. From 2025 to 2034, we will cut Medicaid by $1 trillion from the big, I won't call it beautiful, but the big spending bill that Congress passed last year. Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, he calls it beautiful. In that was a $1 trillion reduction for Medicaid. So that means hospitals, a lot of hospitals rely on Medicaid and Medicare, and particularly in rural areas. Some will most likely close later this year or next year because, especially the eastern side of the state, a lot of Medicaid, Medicare recipients there in red districts. The Congress members represent red districts like Michael Baumgartner. His district will be highly impacted by the Medicaid, Medicare cuts, but he voted for those cuts. So yes, we usually could just take that 200 billion, or say, don't give 200 billion, make it 100 billion and spend the other 100 billion in cities and states and schools and roads and bridges and hospitals and Medicare.
Pay the TSA workers.
Pay the TSA workers. That's another, bill, but and that's also affecting the war. The cost of fuel for planes has gone up. Airline tickets have gone up. Everything's going up with inflation when there's a war, a global war, which, by the way, this is the largest war in the Mideast since the 1960s, impacting over 10 countries, United States included, are impacted by this.
Okay.
So it's a huge, huge conflict that the United States and Israel started.
So you can obviously see when I make commentary like provide us with healthcare, or I think I'm thinking on behalf of what the public wants.
Right.
And maybe the public doesn't want healthcare. I don't know. You know what I mean? But we have, anyway, I'm going to take some comments from our audience.
Okay.
And then I'm going to come back to you and ask you for more of your feedback.
Okay.
But why don't we start with Ray? If you would like to step up to the microphone and maybe, oh boy, it's a little, let me see. Hold on. You got it? So Ray, if you wouldn't mind telling us who you are, you can tell us if you'd like to, if you're here representing an organization or yourself. And then I'm just going to start with saying, tell me how you feel about the war. Iran, Israel, and the United States. And maybe I'm not even including other folks from your opinion who need to be thought of as part of this scenario, but that's where I'll start. But start by telling us who you are.
Yeah, my name is Ray Lee. I am the current chair of Seattle Against War, and I'm here, on behalf of the organization, but also as an individual, right? And I will say that as an individual, I am furious. I am disgusted. This is like such an obscene thing that we are doing. And again, like, it's our tax dollars that has been going towards not just this brutal war that we just began since February 28th and have spent $23 billion for already, right? But also during the genocide. I'm sure a lot of people on their phones have been watching what our tax dollars are doing to children in Gaza, in the West Bank, and also now in the south of Lebanon, and now in Iran. And I think if anybody has their eyes open and have been paying attention, like, this is something that all people of conscience needs to step up and say no more. and I'm gonna now go backtrack a little bit, right? I wanted to start with like where I'm feeling emotionally, but you know, so growing up, like, you know, I would consider myself a pretty average American, like just wanted to go to school, get a good job. And my parents were like, America's great, right? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then in recent years, I came to understand, actually, these are lies that we've been fed. US intervention abroad has basically been one of the most biggest sources of evil, biggest sources of violence. Our sanctions, that this recently came out, our sanctions on other sovereign nations have cost an estimated 38 million lives. And that's not like explicit violence, right? That's like through hunger, through economic crises. So, you know, I'm gonna go back to the organization because I think it's really important that people in this moment are not just like reacting and feeling, though that's really important, but we actually need to be taking action and taking effective action. So Seattle Against War, we just held the Hands Off Iran rally at Pike Place Market, literally the day after the bombs dropped on the schoolgirls in Minab, right? Like, and now we find out that that was like because of AI, which is like horrific. 185 children killed because, you know, we're now using technology to make war even more efficient, which is, anyway. I used to be pretty politically disengaged, even just like 5-6 years ago. But at the nonprofit I used to work at, I became part of a unionization campaign. And that's where I learned that anybody can become an organizer. And it is our job to show people that it's through collective action that we realize that we hold the power. The oligarchs, the Epstein class, they want you to think you don't have power. And they've done a lot of different types of tactics to make you believe that. But it's when we take action together, whether it's in your workplace or on the streets or, you know, going to our Congress people, that's when we learn, actually, no, we have the power. So let me cut to the chase. This is the only antidote to hopelessness and helplessness in this moment. The children being bombed with our tax dollars, they don't benefit from like us, you know, learning and like, oh, like I'm so guilty about where my tax dollars are going. We have to stop doom scrolling. We need to turn this into action. At this point, more than 70% of Americans oppose this war. So if imagine that every one of those people did something, or like we're organized into a group, we could move even more effectively. We'd be able to exert a political force onto our governing bodies and to the profiteering agents to stop the flow of money to genocide and to this billionaire's war. So right now, they are requesting an obscene $200 billion more from Congress, right? So, and why is this happening? Like, it's not actually to liberate anybody. This is the dying gasps of an empire that is trying to preserve the strength of its like economic power globally and to preserve the petrodollar, right? And it's really only for the billionaires. But great news, we have a fantastic strategic lever of the war machine right here in our backyard. You know, other organizations tackle genocidal tech companies like Microsoft, Boeing, but our Seattle Against War, our target is Representative Adam Smith. So he's a congressman for Congressional District Number 9. His district stretches from Central District to all the way down to Kenton Federal Way. And it's like one of the most diverse, you know, immigrant, like big immigrant communities. However, it also covers Bellevue, where he lives, and Mercer Island. So whose interest do you think he serves? So he enjoys a bit of a positive reputation here in Rainier Valley for some of his progressive views. So you have to look at what he's doing. You have to look at how he's voting and not just what he's saying. He's profited from wars going back all the way to the Iraq War, and he's materially supported every one of those wars since then and US intervention. Last year, he had an opportunity to stop all of this by supporting the Ro Khanna War Powers Resolution. And instead of doing that, what he did was he brought a competing resolution to split the opposition to Trump's illegal actions. So why does he do this? 96% of his funding comes from AIPAC and from weapons manufacturers like General Dynamics, Kratos, Boeing, Microsoft, et cetera, right? He's also the number 4 recipient of Palantir amongst all elected officials, not just Democrats. So if you don't already know about Palantir, huh? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes.
That is the whole point of this conversation, this public forum today, is to hear. And so thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, super creepy Orwellian surveillance machine. You don't want this. So he's the most powerful Democrat in the House Armed Services Committee, which determines Department of War budget and spending and oversight of ground operations. He runs a U.S. military defense PAC, which funnels money from a PAC to like 50-something Democrats every election cycle. So this is an enormous amount of power he's not using. So what we need to do is we need to force him to actually live up to his promises, and because he's saying that he's going to oppose Trump on this war, and he's not done anything about it. He's gone on a lot of interviews. So please follow us, Seattle Against War. We have a petition. We've recently changed it to no more money for Trump's war on Iran, and it still has an arms embargo demand under it. And please, if you want to join us or support our work, you can follow us as well and come to our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Wow. So, Carl, everybody gets to say what they want to say. And sometimes we agree and sometimes we disagree. I think, for me, the fact that we have a midterm election coming up, the understanding who you're voting for, right, and where they stand on these issues is pretty important for everybody. It's one thing I got out of what Ray was saying. I'm going to ask you your feedback on what Ray was just talking about. Thank you, Ray.
Anyone can check their representatives' voting record online. It's pretty. You can we Google everything, so you can just Google my state rep, whatever the name is, voting record, 2025, 2026, and it'll come up, and you can do that. And I encourage people to do that if they're really interested in knowing how their representatives vote or didn't vote, or if they actually voted at all. Sometimes they're not voting on things that you would think they should vote on. So that's one. Hold your elected representatives accountable, even if you didn't vote for them or if you did vote for them, doesn't matter. You need to check to see how they voted on, especially on, not like on, the name, Spirit of America Day, but like real serious legislation. We really need to check them on that. And Ray mentioned that, the United States has been involved with a lot of things across the world. And, a lot of us know that, have been knowing that, I got here, my ancestors got here because the United States was involved before it was even a country in extracting African bodies out of Africa. So against their will. So that's when, it goes back that far up until today that we have our hands and tentacles all over the world doing things supposedly on to promote democracy and to make America, a better country, or whatever the stated goal is. But a lot of things we've done all over the country, all over the world, have not been, good things. On the flip side of that, we also have been very have a humanitarian arm that has done a lot of good things. A lot of this has been cut out. U.S. aid been cut out. A lot of the humanitarian efforts in the continent of Africa have been stopped under the Trump administration. So you can look at the good things, and you can also look at the things that are not good that are done under the direction of our country. But back to the war in Iran is that the way it started, and we still, day 19 going up to day 20, it's not clear why we invaded Iran, what was the mission, what was the purpose, and what's the exit plan, and how will the nation look when we are gone. So you mentioned the midterms. Those are some of the things people need to go to the town halls or email or write or call their senator, call their House of Representative member, ask those questions. Write letters. Letters matter. Emails matter. They read those. Maybe not themselves, but their staff, they're reading them. So it's important that you contact your state representative, your U.S. representative and senator, to let them know how you feel and to ask questions and demand that they come to your district and do a town hall. You rarely see them in town halls. Representative Pramila Jayapal, I think she's done over 130 since she's been in office, town hall meetings. I've gone to several of them. Maybe others are doing it, but you need to demand that, I want to see you. I don't see you at the grocery store. Can't go to Washington. I need to see you in person, not just during election campaign time as well.
So the role that our publicly elected officials play in this war with Iran, Israel, and the United States you're saying that's critical?
Very, very critical.
I'm worried about gas prices and I'm worried about food, but whoever is in the office is something but you're saying that that's something that we should be paying attention to, because at the end of the day, what their decisions are could impact.
Yes. And think about it. We're only in day 19. The Iraq War was over a year. I mean, these other conflicts we've been a part of in the Middle East have gone on months and months and months. We're in day 19. President Trump said, we're close to winning. We're close to winning. Based on what? Based on what? But you're asking for $200 billion more dollars, but we're close to winning. So the math ain't mathing. So we need to read. One, need to read. Don't rely on people making posts on Facebook and Instagram. One, you need to read the Seattle Times. You need to read the New York Times. You need to read the Wall Street Journal. You need to read the Atlantic. You can do some podcasts.
What about the internet, social media? That's why I get on. I'm saying for people out there who, that's fake news. I get all my information from the internet. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there are people who do that. There are people who will take advice from somebody on the internet that has some scrubs on and a stethoscope around their neck, and they're giving medical advice, and people will listen to it. And the person is a garbage man. No shade on garbage man. I used to be a garbage man. But people take information from people they have no information about their credentials, who these people really are, if that's a real name. But they'll say, well, I saw it on the internet. This doctor said it. Well, was it a doctor? Well, was it a professor of political science? Or was it not? But you take this information as if it's gospel, and then you spread it around to other people. And so that's how a lot of misinformation and disinformation becomes. Misinformation is information that's done not by mistake, that you didn't know out of ignorance. Disinformation is when you purposefully telling somebody that something that is not true.
This leads us to want to get into the conversation about AI and what impact AI is having on this. I want to give another opportunity for commentary. And while that's happening, we also have some comments that are coming in. Talk about, what is the name on that? I can't see, but talk about Israel's impact on U.S. foreign policy. Is that something you feel comfortable talking about?
Not really, because I'm not really versed in U.S. foreign policy in general.
Okay.
I write about the war since the war started, the 19 days. But Israel's an ally, and Israel and the United States got into this war together against Iran. And it wasn't, there were talks going on in Geneva, negotiations going on for a couple of days with the United States and a representative of the United States, including Jared Kushner was there, Trump's son-in-law, and representative from the Iranian government was there. And they talked in Geneva, and they were coming close to making some progress. I believe the thing that was holding it up is that the United States wanted a 10-year commitment that the Iranian government would bring back its uranium and stop enriching uranium for 10 years, and also issue with their missiles. And the Iranian government said throughout 3 to 5 years, and they were going back and forth with that. And then negotiations stopped. 2 days later, we attacked Iran. So, of course, there's years and years of backstory behind all of this. But for right now, where we are is, we're in a very expensive war with different reasons. Like, was it a regime change, or was it, trying to get oil, or was it, the Ayatollah there was having protesters killed in the street, thousands killed. We want to stop that. Well, what was the real motive? We still, even lawmakers people in the Armed Services Committee still don't know what is and they've been briefed. They've had like private briefings. They've come out of the briefing and said we're still not clear on what was our objective in going to the war.
I'm going to go to Daniel.
Daniel Bell, Assistant Program Director here at Rainer Ave. Echoing a lot of statements here from everybody else. Totally against the war. Feel like we can fund things like healthcare and help the homeless and, all the things that we need here at home. I'm reminded a lot about a 90s movie called Wag the Dog recently, where basically, if anyone has not seen that movie, there was a president that was near election season. However, he gets into a sexual scandal. So what does he do? He manufactures a war, and he actually hires a Hollywood producer to actually make something happen on the news. So I'm getting that kind of impression because before all this, of course, there's a lot of this about the Epstein files, of course. So that's what a lot of people are thinking about right now. This is very timely in that front, but they can say that they want another $500 trillion for a war, but they won't have that 500 trillion or even ask for it for things that we need here at home.
All right. Thank you, Daniel.
Yep.
I know you came to comment.
Okay, I apologize. I've been waiting.
No, you're right on time. I'll just let folks know who you are, and then you can let them know if you're representing an organization or just talking for yourself, and then say whatever you want to say.
All right. Hurry up and get my notes out. Hello, my name is Angie, and I have come here because I wanted to go and speak upon what is currently going on in Iran. Let me first and foremost, let me get my notes out because I'm garbage at remembering. All right. So I do not know if I'm repeating. What's your name again? Ray, what you said, but I might as well say what I'm going to say again. Okay. So I suppose for some background information to say why exactly we are in Iran, is in 1954, the U.S. CIA specifically, on behalf of British Petroleum, went to go ahead and have a coup in Iran. I think it was Mossad Mossadegh was replaced by the Shah, who was then acted as a good puppet because Mossad Mossadegh wanted to go nationalize the oil industry and grant the Iranian people and use it to go and help the Iranian people. But the Shah would go and be put in, brutal dictator, puppet of the U.S. regime. And then, come 1979, a movement occurred, the Islamic Revolution, and what we know as Iran today, the bedrock, overthrew the Shah. And to go know how much the U.S. didn't want the administration that went against them, in 1980, they used Iraq as a proxy to go ahead and try and invade Iran. It did not work out. It lasted for 8 years. Millions died. But that is basically the background of why we don't like Iran. And before, there was this buildup of sanctions and sanctions after sanctions that made Iran more and more poor. I think cut the GDP 30%. Then we tried to go and hijack genuine protests in there, which failed. And then what ended up occurring, I think it was it the U.S. or Israeli that attacked first? Either or, this is probably was going to happen regardless. Because as they said, distraction is one thing. There's the fact that there's a segment of neocons, not only just Israel, but neocons that wanted to go ahead and bomb Iran. And it's currently, I think Ray said a lot of things already. I wanted to say, good job, Ray. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, it's going to continue to escalate. It was very compact at first, believe it or not, there was no energy infrastructure really attacked. But what occurred recently was Israel attacked one of Iran's largest natural gas facilities, and with that, and it's used to go and basically power the electricity grid, not to go ahead and export oil. And so in turn, they responded by bombarding Qatar's industrial city, the liquid natural gas refining is there, and I think it would take 5 years to go and repair that, and 17% of their liquefied natural gas exports have been cut off. This includes also like petroleum products, things for your phones and stuff. So this is going to go and really shock the energy market and cause prices and inflation to go up further. And I learned just today that Iran now has bombed an Israeli refinery. So any sort of de-escalation into now this much bigger escalation of the Iran war is not going to happen, and it will go and affect the U.S. economy. This does go to another certain point, why we should go and be anti-war. Now, I would go and say the 2,000 lives lost, I'm pretty sure, again, Ray said stuff that I want to say. No. Blame the buses for me being late. It's good. You're speaking the truth. It's good. But anyways, so let's see. One of the things that this will do probably is as we go into a recession or a depression, I would not be surprised if the latter, uprisings will incur a protest. And as we know, the Imperial Boomerang, what was used against Palestinians as well as marginalized and oppressed groups here in the U.S., will go ahead and be used at the population at large to go ahead and suppress these groups. And so when it comes to community, what I think is needed is, first and foremost, is a armed public defense group. So to go ahead and basically protect the community from any sort of, police or ICE. And I think that we should probably have this yesterday because the U.S. police is already really brutal. But that is one thing. But also, as the depression goes on, we would need mutual aid networks. So we can go and help one another and not be alone, and go and make more people join the defense network and really bring it up to the community. And fight that current individualistic consumerism that's rampant around here. And hopefully, if that occurs, outside of being able to go ahead and defend those that can't defend themselves and keep the community safe, it possibly could lead to a greater movement to go ahead and, in my personal opinion, overthrow the U.S. government and put a worker state. That's just me. And so that's what I have to say. That's my 2 cents on the Iran war. And yeah, this kind of stuff has happened everywhere else, and this is a war, an existential war for Iran. So if we go and continue escalating, and let's just say we destroy stuff that brings them past no point of no return, they do not need to hold back. They can go ahead and basically burn down the Middle East and set them back, and also basically crash the global economy. And they are willing to do that, I feel, because they, as industrial city in Qatar, they're selling that. I think they have $20 billion worth of repairs. To go and put that in perspective, the U.S. uses roughly 1 billion of interceptor missiles per day for this war. Over the course of 20 days, or 19 days, it's 19 billion. In one attack, not one day, one attack, 20 billion worth of destroyed assets, energy assets, basically happen. And that's also, I'd say, huge escalation. And yeah, I think that's all I got to say for now.
But Angie, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
It seems as though you have either done some research or have been familiar with some of these issues for a long time.
Yes.
For folks who haven't done that, can you easily explain, and if you can, you can. You can't, you can't. Can you easily explain why this war is taking place? Is there someone at fault?
Well, I will go and say it is the U.S. capitalist class. Yeah. You see, because currently the dollar is starting to lose value, the U.S. as an empire, and therefore as, I'll say, the imperial core and home base for global capitalism, is starting to decline.
So you feel like it's the United States and it's all about the dollar?
Yes, but capitalist class in general.
That's like the main driver, right?
Yeah, that's the
Okay,
main
and I mean, I
driver.
know I'm oversimplifying it here,
Yeah.
but that's kind of where you're coming from. Thank you.
Yes,
If you
and
want,
it's also to deny oil from competitors as well.
okay.
Yes, that's
Thank you.
another thing, but that's one part of the bigger picture.
Again, you're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. It's me, Tony B. We're having a conversation, a public forum, if you will, on how folks feel about the war, Iran, Israel, and the United States. People sharing their thoughts, sharing their information. Again, Mayor Greg Wheeler from Bremerton was going to be here but couldn't make it. One of the things that I wanted to talk with Mayor Wheeler about, if you're wondering why somebody from Bremerton, there is a naval base in Bremerton that, according to the information I have, will be the main place where those who are enlisted will go to before they go to wherever they're going. So I don't know if that's going to be part of this conversation and the impact, but the point is that there are a lot of ways that folks are going to be impacted by this war. That's what we're here today. I'm going to quickly go, and I'm also joining me is Carlton Winfrey, the writer, columnist for the Seattle Times. I'm looking at this. Can you say this attack? This attack isn't about uranium enrichment, missiles. This even Trump admits. What is that?
It's about to deflect from the domestic issue of the Epstein files.
You want to respond to that? Your thoughts?
There's so much going on, and there are deflections, everywhere you look from the issue of the Epstein files, where the Department of Justice refuses to give a thorough investigation and give justice to these, I want to call them women, but they were girls when they were violated. Many of them were girls. They're now women now, and I think we should keep that in mind when we see them on TV as survivors. They're standing in a press conference or whatever, but remember that they were underage. Many of them were underage when they were violated. But, and you hear a lot of that this is a distraction. It's a distraction. Like, well, Donald Trump wouldn't start a war just to distract from the Epstein file.
I think what I heard you say.
Okay.
Donald Trump would not start a war
Some people think that.
just to distract from the Epstein files.
But the writer, the person who wrote that, is saying that that's what he thinks this is.
Yeah.
When you think about it, he ran on as the president of peace. J.D. Vance campaigned for him, saying he's not going to start any wars. He's going to get us away from being the police of the world. Since then, we haven't done anything with Ukraine. Donald Trump said when he becomes president, he's going to end that war in a day. We've invaded Venezuela. We've invaded Iran. We're looking to invade Cuba. We are turning a blind eye to the Ukrainian-Russia war. But Trump is upset he didn't get a Nobel Peace Prize. So I say that to say a lot of things have happened just out of the water, like the different press conferences would have on issues. The Kennedy Center, closing the Kennedy Center, putting his name on the Kennedy Center, now closing it for 2 years. The ballroom, the $200-300 million ballroom, all those things, the presidential walk of fame that he has installed at the White House that has plaques of each president. And, some Congress people say you shouldn't demean, shouldn't degrade, a president. But in those plaques, Donald Trump is demeaning and degrading a lot of the Democratic presidents. All those things are shocking to people. Like, I can't believe he tore down the whole East Wing. That's shocking. And it gets a buzz. Meanwhile, the Epstein files are sitting on the desk and nobody's pushing for it to be a full investigation. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi is going to be going for the House pretty soon to testify. I think it's April 14th. He's going to be going before them under oath. So that will be interesting to see. But this caller thinks the war was a distraction. I think the war is probably something more beyond it just being a distraction. It has been a distraction for some people, but some people always go back to, the Iraq war, 13 people have been killed. It's very expensive. What about the Epstein files?
My guest again, Carlton Winfrey, writer, columnist, the editor for the Seattle Times. You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. We are providing our community an opportunity to give their feedback, their opinion on the Iran-Israel-United States war. If you're even calling it a war, there may be some folks who don't even call it a war, but our community gets to speak up. Our community gets to talk. Do you want to step up to the mic, just tell folks who you are? And again, if you're with an organization or you're an individual, and then you get to say whatever in the hell you want to say.
Okay. My
And,
name is.
and try and remember to be kind of close to the microphone.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to not look at you and talk. My name is Lily. I'm here as an individual today. I agree. I think that why it's happening can be, it's elusive to us because no one's really come outright and said it. I think there's a lot of really good hypotheses. But along the lines of the Epstein files, I think that there are many reasons that Trump would want to start this war, a lot, and I think very much like on the forefront of his campaign and administration, the reasons that others before me spoke about. And then also, it probably is really convenient that it's a huge distraction for him. I think that this war also really highlights the hypocrisy, not only of Trump, but a lot of Americans in general, in terms of how much we say we want to care about those here, whether that be women, girls who are often victims of sexual assault, like those survivors mentioned and in the spotlight of the Epstein files, and how much we say we want to take care of Americans, people who are living on the streets, veterans who are not provided the care that they need and deserve, all while not actually following through on any of that. I think that a lot of probably more right-wing people would say that this war is really, it's to, like you said, for the people, for Iranian people to be quote unquote free, that we're there to liberate this, backwards foreign nation, which is just to me, such a blatant lie. I don't really see how you can support and help people by bombing them. I think it highlights a lot of hypocrisy around American values, what we choose to spend our money on versus what politicians say they want to support and uplift in our communities.
Hang on for a second. One of the things that you just said, correct me if I'm wrong, is I don't see how you can support people by bombing them. Right? That's a big statement. Yeah. Because in Gaza, in Iran, the whole thing was to bomb them and obliterate them. So when the statement is made is like, I don't see how you can support people by bombing them. I mean, Carlton, can you either say, you know what, this is why that's not true, or this is how you can support people by bombing? Because we have people out there who are going to look at the conflicts of this and they're looking for answers right now.
When I said earlier that negotiations were going on between Iran and the United States about the nuclear weapons or potential to have nuclear weapons, that was done in secret. Nobody, you didn't see any media coverage that this was going on. It was a secret meeting, and people in Geneva knew it was going on, knew they were there, but you didn't see much coverage, or if any, over here about day one. What happened in negotiations in day one? What happened in negotiations in day two? Diplomacy can't rain from the sky. True diplomacy can't rain from the sky. You have to sit at a table with your interpreters or whoever in order to have true diplomacy. First, you have to want it. First, must want the same life that I should want for you. That's the first thing. Then you have to be able to sit down and discuss and negotiate. And that's what comes about with true diplomacy. And but when you think of a nation's power, you often hear Trump say, we're the most powerful military, we're the most powerful country. Secretary of Defense Hegseth says, we're powerful, we're lasers focused on, we have the best military. That's not true power, really. True power is to say, I want you to sit down, and I want you to sit down, and we're going to negotiate.
No,
that is power. When you tell someone, I want you to do this, and I want you to do this, and I'll be the referee.
So what Lily said was, you can't, Lily's words, you can't, how does bombing people support anyone? But that is what is being said right now, that is the strength of what the U.S. military is doing, is we're bombing them.
Mm-hmm. Including
does that support the ultimate goal, whatever that ultimate goal is? And again, I don't know.
We don't know.
You
it keeps moving.
But
it keeps moving.
Whether it's regime change or limiting the capacity for Iran to create nuclear weapons, does that bombing support those who are there who may disagree and feel that they are oppressed by the current regime? Does that support them? And I'm just asking, bro.
When you're taking out installations, if you and I have a disagreement, mm-hmm. and I don't attack you, I'll attack your best friend. Mm-hmm. I'll attack other people around you. I'll attack other people who support you. I'll attack them to show you that I have power. Mm-hmm. And that's what actually happened. Iran, when Israel and the United States attacked Iran attacked Kuwait and United Arab immigrants,
which seemed to catch everybody off guard.
Right. People think of Dubai. Oh my God! People vacation in Dubai. People were sending emails like, "I was just in Dubai last summer. It's a beautiful." Yeah, they attacked through drones. They attacked these cities and countries that are around them. Mm-hmm. That made it now a regional war, on the verge of a world war, because Russia supposedly is giving them intelligence information.
And I'm just going to say, back to her point. So what they did in return was they bombed.
Right. So you destroy the infrastructure, mm-hmm. and I guess we don't know what the motive is and what the next step is. But is it boots on the ground? You go in and then you rebuild. If it was a regime change, you got to be boots on the ground. If it's removing uranium, it's got to take boots on the ground for that. Nobody knows.
I'm going to try and get in one more. Want to give your feedback and commentary? No. This is your last chance. Go ahead on up there. That's why you're here. Give some feedback and some commentary.
I'm very interested.
Oh, you have to at the mic. Thank you, Lily. And I wasn't picking on you. I just chose a portion of what you said. because that was actually something that people are discussing. Can you, is bombing support? Some people would say yes. Some people would say no. And face the camera and get in front of the microphone.
Yes.
Ray, would you mind lifting that up for?
Okay.
And just say who you are, and if you're with an organization, fine, or if it's just your individual comment, that's fine.
My name is Jim Tharp, and I house people who are coming out of prison. I'm very interested in trying to figure out how my neighbors, how the Jewish community is going to deal with some of the stuff that's happening in our nation, where they're saying that Israel pushed us into this war. And I'm just interested in seeing their feelings and knowing how it fits in this larger plan of just bombing. Going back to that.
Okay. Right up. Israel.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, when asked by reporters, how did this start? And he said that negotiations broke off and that Israel gave the United States information that they were going to attack Iran and that Iran is going to attack United States installations around or its allies around Iran, near Iran, and that was what was going to happen. That's what Marco Rubio said on air. There's video, you can Google it, Marco Rubio and the Iran war. That's what he said at first. The next day he walked it back and said, it's about uranium and making sure Iran never has a nuclear missile that can reach the mainland of the United States. That was then the next thing. Before that, it was regime change. Donald Trump announced on the 28th, when the day it happened, that when he had the USA baseball cap on, that it was about regime change, and he told the Iranians, now's your chance to rise up and take over your nation and do the right thing, because we're going to come in and change the regime, and that's it. And the next day, the supreme leader was killed, and then his son was made the supreme leader, and now one of the high-level officials in their military was killed. I believe it was yesterday. So
I'm just going to say, just, and I'm not on anybody's side about this, but man, if you kill my mom and my dad and my brother and my sister, if what you want from me is unconditional surrender, that's not what's going to happen. And I don't know how people feel about regime change, but that's the new Ayatollah. So I don't know. Maybe they can negotiate, but you know what I'm saying?
I think negotiation may be, eventually when the war ends, there has to be some sort of discussion. Whenever it ends, that could be, the Iraqi war was 9 years.
Do you think, because we're almost out of time here, do you see an end to this in a few weeks, in a few months? Do you think this is some?
No, not a few weeks, not a few months. I don't. Because Iran is pressuring the United States, is hitting us where it really hurts. That what Americans care about is our pocketbooks. So that, and it being an election year, and they know that the price of oil is going up. It was $119 a barrel yesterday. I think it's down like 100 today, 110 today. They know that we need oil. We need liquid natural gas. They know we need that. And 20% of the oil comes from
is driving what America feels, as opposed to the emotion associated with this war for some people,
yes,
or the life and death.
Right. I don't think it's not like Vietnam when you saw the bodies, and TV coverage is not like that anymore. But where we've had 13, which to me is a lot, it's 13 too many service people to die. If that number ticks up, if the Navy goes into the Strait of Hormuz and something happens to, I think then people would, their mindset or their opinions would change toward, wait a minute.
I want to give you 1 minute here for your own words without me interrupting you,
Okay.
for closing, well, because we're almost out of time. But again, thank everyone who joined us here today and shared their commentary and your feedback. That's what this was all about. Thank you, Mr. Winfrey, for joining us and again sharing your commentary and explanations. I want to give you 1 minute just for whatever you want to say right now as we wrap this up.
Okay. I don't think we as voters, even if you're a non-voter, if you're an American, if you live here, we should not feel defeated by what's going on for the past year and a half. We should not feel defeated. We should feel empowered. We should think of it as collective. We need to talk to each other, form groups, write letters, protest. If you can't do that, write a check to an organization that can, carry your message forward. But the last thing we need to do is give up and say they're going to do whatever they want to do. But most of all, register to vote, get someone else registered to vote, and vote yourself.
Okay, I meant to do this. I've had a lot of feedback. We did invite the mayor to come, and I did get a statement, and I meant to read it, so I'm going to read it before we get off the air. And let's see here. So when asked for a statement from the mayor, my concern.
Seattle.
Mayor of Seattle. Yeah, Mayor of Bremerton was going to be here, but when asked for the mayor of Seattle, my concern was if something was to happen, who would respond? What would that response be? Was there any preparation for any type of attack in Seattle? That's kind of what I wanted to know. And whatever the feelings were about the war, if there was something that they said, well, this is going to impact us economically, this is all those things as well, but whatever. But the scenario that we have a large Jewish community here, if something were to happen, and the response that I got back was, the mayor's office does not have a statement about the current war and Seattle's emergency preparedness plan for this specific situation. We work closely with our Office of Emergency Management to lead our cross-collaboration with the state in the event of an emergency. The best way for residents to stay informed with our emergency updates is to sign up for the alerts on our Office of Emergency Management site. To me, that's not what I wanted to hear. Doesn't sound like there's a plan in place. But a lot to think about. I know that at the synagogue in Michigan, just prior to that incident that happened, they had a training.
Right.
Quickly, your thoughts, if you choose to, on this information that I have from Mayor Katie Wilson's office that I just read.
I'm not sure if,
because I'm not the mayor, I don't
entities share what their emergency plan is, because some people can sabotage that plan if you let the public know what your plan is. As long as the people who are going to implement that plan know what to do, EMTs and National Guard or the police or Sheriff's Department, as long as they know what they're supposed to do, that's really what you really want. I don't think you really want to broadcast what the exact plan is, because some people can, try to sabotage it, But you mentioned the synagogue in Michigan, where I lived for a while. It was great news that they had prepared for that. That had training, like you said, a day or a week before, which I think the governor said played a part in, the Attorney General's office said helped mitigate that situation. Life was lost, but still it helped protect, and a quick response was able to work out there for them.
So much we could have gotten into. Again, we're out of time. Coming up next, John Yasutake, Seattle Here and Now. I went a little overtime. Sorry, John. Thank you all for joining us here on Rainier Avenue Radio. This short notice town hall meeting to discuss the war in Iran. And the point of making it happen now was because things are changing almost every day. And as you spoke about earlier, well, this is what Marco Rubio said on day one. Then on day 2, the president said something different. The further we move away from this, the more information that we're going to get, and we're going to that maybe will conflict with what we heard to start this thing off. And then as the landscape of this war changes as well, it's possible that the outcomes that whoever is looking for might change. I don't know. Colin, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And for sharing your thoughts and your opinions on this war. Thank all of you out there who are listening. I know that some of you are probably going to get this all over the world, and you may get it at different times. But this is South Seattle. This is what we think. And you know what? We'll probably do this again some point in time. It's me, Tony B., your host, saying, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you cannot, you are probably right. I'm out. Peace.